President. Please be seated. The court is back in session, and the floor is handed over to the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia to resume its questioning. And for interpreter, the witness name is Him Hui, not Hum Hui. Yesterday, the witness confirmed that his name is Him Hui, not Hum Hui. So please use that Him Hui for your interpretation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We went back to our notes, and we agree with the prosecution that it is still a bit unclear as to what specific building the witness was speaking about when he talked about where Koi Toon was being held. Mr. Witness, let us try to be very clear about what you're saying. On the premises of the Tuol Sleng Museum, there is a building which is on the south side of that premises, usually referred to as Building A. The special prison was south of the premises on which south of the premises of the Tuol Sleng Museum. So,
Mr. President, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think there's evidence that the special prison may have included Building A, and that's the reason that I brought up the issue. But in any event, if the witness is here, we should ask the witness rather than counsel and I make assertions about this.
Well, like everything, Mr. President, I'm not making it up. I refer to document D108/57/1, which is a air view of that particular part of Phnom Penh, and one can see the parameters of the special prison. Duik himself offered evidence that the special prisoners were moved to Building A in the second semester of 1978. So again, going back to my original question, Mr. Witness, talking about Koi Toon, where was he held? In Building A on the premises of the Tuol Sleng Museum, or in a house south of the premises?
In that time, there were several houses in the southern part, to the south of the prison. And then Building A was transferred to be a special prison. 3 was in charge of guard duty in the southern part, and I did not know at the time where he was detained specifically.
When did Building A on the Tuol Sleng Museum premises become the special prison?
I cannot recall it.
Koi Toon was arrested in January 1977. Was Koi Toon being held in one of the houses on the southern side of the Tuol Sleng Museum, outside the premises?
houses of in the southern side of tourist line were special prison as well uh, in the period before that time, and later on, as I said, Building A was turned into a special prison.
We're almost there, Mr. Witness. Now my question is, do you know which house or which building Koi Toon was being held?
The houses in the southern part were used as a special prison, and I do not know which house Koi Toon was held, or whether Koi Toon was held in Building A. I am not sure.
No problem, Mr. Witness. Have you yourself ever been inside one of those houses south of the Tulslang premises? Have you ever been inside the houses of the special prison?
Those several houses were under the supervision of a Sri's group. And the buildings inside those houses compound were considered special prisons. I went inside to have a look as well at the time when I was on guard duty.
Have you actually been able to observe any of the special prisoners other than Koi Toon? Have you seen Chanchakrai? Have you seen Yang? Have you seen anyone in those houses?
I did not have a great interest at the time. I was on guard duty and also monitoring the tasks performed by my guards. And usually doors were closed. I mean, doors of those houses were closed.
Do you know whether any special prisoners in that special prison were able to hear outside noises?
No. At the time I was on patrolling duty, checking whether my guards, my men were asleep, and I did not know how many prisoners.
Let me move on to the next subject, Mr. Witness, and that's when prisoners were being brought in from outside. Is it correct that all potential prisoners or all future prisoners were brought into the premises of the building which is now known as the Beehive radio station?
Important prisoners, after they had been arrested, were sent inside the compound on the vehicles. They were not kept temporarily at that station.
I understand, but I'm talking to the very beginning when prisoners would come into the outer perimeter of S21. Was every potential future prisoner unloaded first from the truck at the building which is now known as the Beehive radio station?
No, they were not sent into a radio station. In fact, those prisoners were on vehicles and they were driven right into the compound.
Are you saying they were driven right into the compound of what is now known as the Tuol Sleng Museum?
That is correct.
What was the function then of building or the reservation area R or the Beehive radio station building? What was its function then?
That location was to prevent vehicles from going inside the perimeter of the compound.
Let me see if I can clear this up by referring to what you said yourself in your testimony in case 1, document E3/7461, at around 10:59. You say that when the prisoners were sent to Tuol Sleng, the important prisoners would be detained in the prisons, and for the less important prisoners, they would be sent to Prey Sar, to Hu Sre's section. A little bit further, you say when they were sent here, there were all kinds of people. There were spouses and children. For those who were sent to Prey Sar, they were first put in a house to the east of the road, and then they would be transported from that location to Prey Sar. And a bit down as well, for the children and the mothers who were the less important prisoners, they would be sent to Prey Sar. So my question is, if a truck would come and the people would be unloaded, where was the decision being made that the women and the children or the less important people would go to Prey Sar and others would go inside Tuol Sleng's compound?
When they were sent to that compound, in fact, those who were to be sent to Prey Sar were stopped at the road to the east of the compound. And I would be ordered to use a large truck to transport those people waiting at the roads to the east to Prey Sar.
Okay. But people who were brought in and who were subsequently driven by you to Prey Sar to work in the rice fields, were they registered and photographed inside the premises of the Tuol Sleng Museum building or premises?
No photographs, no register of names. They were unloaded from the vehicle that they were on and then put onto another truck. But I had to make sure how many people there to be sent to Prey Sar.
I understand, but who told you that group goes into the Tuol Sleng Museum premises and that group goes to Prey Sar? Who told you that? How did you know?
Taho assigned me and my men to do the job, sending those people to Preso. And there was a group of prisoners who would be sent into Tuls line.
I understand, but can you be a little bit more detailed? You said Hor instructed me, but did he give you names? Did he point to the people? How did that go?
There was a list of names, and which names were to be sent to the field and towards line. The names would be called out.
I understand. Now let me turn to the evidence that the chief of the photography unit gave, Nim Kim Srang, Mr. President, E3/7639. ERN English 00162736, French 00338079. I will give you, my apologies, the Khmer ERN a bit later. Mr. Witness, this is what the chief of the photography unit said. After their photos were taken, where were the prisoners sent? And he answers, the majority of the prisoners who had been photographed were sent to farm rice. But aside from that, I don't know. Those prisoners sent to farm rice were mostly minor people. I went along and photographed that. I saw that they farmed rice. Just to be complete, Mr. Witness, asked another question by the investigator on English ERN 00162734, French 00338076. He says,
I'll let you ERN.
President, please repeat EON numbers once again because the interpreters did not catch up.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. English ERN 00162734, French 00338077, and the Khmer I will give you shortly. So Nim, the chief of the photography unit, is describing an incident, and he says the following. One day, when I was developing photos, photos were damaged, and when I requested to retake the photos, I could only find 2 of them. And I asked Duik, brother, the prisoners brought in yesterday, where have they all gone? He said they had all gone to the rice fields. Go photograph them at the rice fields. End of quote. Mr. Witness, both excerpts seem to suggest that also the prisoners who were sent by you to Presar were photographed inside the premises of the Toolslang Museum. Is that correct?
Sorry, Counsel, I find your use of Toolslang Museum confusing. If you want to clarify a location, then say what is now known as Toolslang Museum. It wasn't a museum at that time, whatever it was. I think we can agree on that.
At least we can agree on that, Judge Fentz. I'm trying to make it simple for the witness. Mr. Witness, when I refer to the premises, what is now known as the Toolslang Museum, I hope you understand what I mean. I can also refer to Building E, if that makes it easier for you. But again, my question is, the people that Hor asked you to bring to Presar, had they already been photographed? And had their identity been already taken or written down?
When I was instructed to send and transport those prisoners to Preso, they had not been photographed or registered their biography first. And there was an occasion that a group of prisoners were dropped off on a road to the east of the compound, and I was instructed to use another vehicle to go and transport those prisoners to Preso, and they were not photographed, and their biography was not registered at the time.
If that's the case, Mr. Witness, can you then explain to me how it was that Hor knew which prisoners would go to Presar? You told me he had a list of names. Where did he get that from?
Regarding those prisoners, there were names of there were, in fact, the prisoners, there was a list of names specifying who was to be sent to the field and inside. And then the whole would verify the names to be sent to specific direction, and he then instructed me and my group to go and send those prisoners to Presar.
And do you know who had made that decision to make that selection? Who was it that instructed Hor to send one group of prisoners to Presar and the other to Tulsleng Museum premises, as it is known now?
It was Taduik who decided that case.
How do you know?
Because list of names of prisoner, I guess, was sent to Duik, and then the whole would verify which prisoners to be sent to the field by comparing his list of names with the prisoners' names.
I heard you say, I guess. If you offer evidence, you have to tell us how you know. How did you know it was Duik who decided which prisoners would go to Presar and which prisoners would stay?
I do not know about the specific plan. All I know is that there was a group of prisoners to be asked to go on to a new track, and then there was another group to be sent inside the compound.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Witness. Let me now go to Comrade Peng. You talked extensively about Comrade Peng yesterday. Can you tell us exactly how the hierarchy was? How was your group related to the unit of Comrade Peng?
I do not really understand it.
You're a military person, Mr. Witness. I understand that Peng was commanding a 100-man unit. Was your group part of that 100-man unit? Was it separate thereof? Did you have to report to Peng? Just tell us, if you will, how the exact hierarchy was within those two groups and the groups in relation to each other.
Regarding the security guard unit, Payne was the chief. Paul was also the chief. Sri and I were members, and Hui was one of the commanders. My unit was under Payne's. However, in terms of duties and work that I had to do, I received orders from Ho.
Let me ask you very simply, was Peng your superior?
Yes, he was my superior.
And did Peng in his turn have to report to Paul? Was Paul Peng's superior?
I do not know about the reporting system, where the report would go, but usually Payne also made a report to Ho, Brother Ho.
What was Paul's position? How was he in the hierarchy? Do you know?
Back then, when I was working at Tools Line, Paul was higher than Payne in Tools Line.
But then again, my question, do you know whether Peng in the hierarchy, in his turn, had to report to Paul?
I do not know about that.
Do you know whether Paul in his turn had to report to Hor?
When there was any issue, Paul would send a report to Ho, and sometimes the report may have been forwarded up the line to Duke.
Can you explain to me, Mr. Witness, how it was possible for you to speak directly to Hor or speak directly to Paul while your superior was in fact Peng?
Since I was required to report to Ho in case of any issues arose.
I understand, but was there a special reason for Hor to go outside of the command structure and ask you to report to him directly?
The Ho was higher than Peng and Paul. He was in charge in all security guards, so anyone could make a report to Ho without going through Peng or Paul.
And what about Puch? Puk? I'm not quite sure if I pronounced it well. What was his position?
Poch was one the chief of security guards with Payne. Later on, he was arrested, and Paul came to replace Poch.
Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to show a photograph to the witness. I can also have the AV units show it on the screen. It is document E3/8063.14, English ERN only 00005254.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, do you recognize this photo?
Yes, I recognize this photo.
Are you on it?
Yes.
And who are you on the photo?
I am the one who carrying a gun in the middle of the photo that is on the front row.
And who are the rest of the 3, 6, 8, 10 men? Who are they? Who are the other 10 men?
I recall some of them. They were Teo, Kom, Ron, myself, Pawn, and I cannot recall the names of the rest.
And was this photo taken while you were at S21?
At that time, I already entered S21 and Tanat was in charge. Some of the men in the photo were messengers and radio operator. And in fact, we were requested to provide protection to Chinese engineer who wants to visit a site in Kiri room. We were part of the security force to provide the security to those Chinese engineers at the Kiri room.
Are these members of what we referred to earlier this morning? Are these members of the arresters unit? Or are these men not members of the arresters unit?
No. They were former 703 members, including messengers and radio operator. And there were some men from Tanat's office.
Now let me go back to Peng, who was your superior. Was he at all times your superior?
Yes. Peng was always my superior.
Did Peng always give you orders to do certain things?
They never gave me an order, and the orders came from Tahoe.
So in the period that you were stationed at S21, Peng never gave you an actual order or instruction, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I was a part of the outer perimeter guard, and we were under the direct supervision of Tahoe.
Yesterday, like I said, you spoke about Peng. You said that Peng's group was responsible for killings or executions at the S21 premises. Can you explain why it was that Peng told you that he or his group was responsible for executions on the S21 premises?
Please repeat your question.
You told us just now that Peng never gave you any orders ever. Yesterday you said that you heard from Peng that he or his group was responsible for the killings that took place at the S21 premises. My question to you is the following. Can you explain why it was that Peng told you this?
Of course, it's typical since he involved in the executions there and he talked about it. If Peng did not tell me, other people would also say about that.
No. Now you have to be very precise and concise, Mr. Witness. You cannot now speculate. My question to you is, why was it that Peng told you that he or his group was responsible for executions?
But, Counsel, frankly, I mean, I've held back, but you have mentioned about speculation now. The way you've raised the question, it asks for speculation. Because it's more pertinent to ask, tell us the incident in which you were told about that.
I have no problem in going to it in a different way, Judge Vance. Can you explain exactly where it was, when it was, that Peng told you he or his group were responsible for executions at the S21 premises?
I don't understand it as well then.
Let's back up a bit, Mr. Witness. Yesterday, answering a question from the prosecution, you said, prosecution asked you, how do you know that people were executed? And you said, Peng told me. Now I would like you to tell us when it was exactly that Peng told you that he was responsible for executions at the S21 premises.
I do not recall it.
Where was it? Where were you when he said that?
It was likely that when I entered his office, He said that he took people to be killed at the back of the building, although he did not pinpoint the exact location of the killing site.
You're saying it was likely. What does that mean? It was likely that this happened. What do you mean with that?
They took people to be killed behind the prison, and they didn't tell me exactly where those people were killed. They only said that they killed people at the back and to the south part of the prison compound.
Where was it that Peng said this? When was it that Peng said this? Can you be a bit more specific?
I do not recall that specific detail. Maybe when it was the time that I took prisoners to his office, and maybe I met him there and he spoke about it, and after that I returned.
Let's be even more specific. Where was it that you knew that Peng was responsible for execution of children?
I can say that there was nowhere else but the location behind the prison.
You're not answering my question. Mr. Witness, just try to remember where it was and when it was that you received information that Peng was responsible for the killing of children.
When the parents were sent to Trường A, the children were subsequently gathered to be killed at the location behind the prison.
How did you know?
I saw them being taken away. As for me, I took those men and women to have them boarded a vehicle, and the vehicle was parking not far from the building.
How did you know that the children were not sent to Presar?
I learned it from Taho, who said that children shall not be sent together, otherwise this secrecy would be breached, and that they were sent to Spain.
I will get back to that a bit later. Let me try it in another way, Mr. Witness. Have you seen with your own eyes that at ES21 premises children were killed?
No, I did not. However, everyone said they were killed behind the prison.
That's exactly what I'm now trying to establish. Was it a rumor, or was it something that actually happened? Can you tell us exactly what it was that you heard?
After the parents had been sent to Trường A, the children had already been sent, because I was near his office busy with the vehicle there. I received the prisoners from them to have them on the vehicle, and the children were sent to another road. That is, there was a road or an exit entrance at the back of the compound.
Did you follow with your own eyes the children who were in the truck? And did you follow subsequently the truck?
No, they were not put onto a vehicle. The vehicle were to transport the adults. As for the children, they held their hand and walked them, or they were carried by people, and they were taken to the back road behind the prison.
Have you seen that?
I saw them at the building where they were let out from that building and taken away. As for me, I only received adult and transported them to Chiang Mai.
But you haven't seen the actual execution of the children. How do you know that the point where you last saw the children was just before their execution? How did you know that?
It is difficult for me to tell you then, because the instructions from the whole was for Peng to take the children away first, and he would go and check the name of the people on the list to be transported to Chiang Mai. And when I was there, I saw the children being taken out. As for the adults, they will be unshackled and they were walked to the vehicle. President, the purpose of the question is that first you need to be familiar with the proceedings in the court, that the counsel wants to elicit the express response from you in relation to this very fact. You stated that the children were taken away and killed behind two-line prison. And the question to you is that whether you yourself witnessed the execution. And if you said no, then the question is, how did you know about the execution of those children? Or did you only knew about the order from Ho that the children had to be taken first, and that there was no execution order for the children? Or whether during this period of time the parents were separated from the children and the parents had to be transported to Chiang Mai, or that you or your group also assisted in the separation of the children behind their parents, and that the children were taken through the back entrance. And if that is only what you saw, then why did you state that the children that were separated from the parents were subsequently executed? Because you yourself said you did not witness the execution. Then what is the base for your claim that the children were executed? Who told you about that if you did not witness it? Or whether you knew of any express order about the execution of those children? Otherwise, it keeps going in circle. Can you respond to that question about your knowledge that the children were taken and executed at the back of the prison? How did you know about that, or by what means? Or whether who actually told you about that? And actually, I have reminded you of your obligation to tell the truth that you have known, heard, remembered, or experienced through your observation. And that is also a form of your response. Of course, we understand that these events took place many years ago. So, in fact, you have a broader scope of responding to the questions. Do you understand what I have just explained to you? And if so, please respond. And when you don't know, you say, I don't know. It is also a response. And of course, I have reminded you not to speculate or to make your personal conclusion. If you knew anything in detail at the time, for example, a cry from the children for help, then you state so. But if you only heard from a third or from a second or third person, it is a form of rumor. So please tell the chamber by what means or by whom that you think you knew the children were killed. Answer. The order is that when the children were taken out, it means the children were taken out to be killed. That was the order.
Let me try it one more time and in a different way, Mr. Witness. Let me read to you what you said yourself in your testimony in case 1 at around 11:47. You were asked questions about the fate of children, and then you said, and I quote you as follows: regarding the children of the mothers who were detained and executed, I don't think I have any idea about them. I think Peng, with his groups, conducted or carried out the operation at Tul Sleng. In this answer, before this very same chamber, Mr. Witness, you were very uncertain. I don't think I have any idea about them. What makes you now say that you do have an idea?
Usually the order for the children to be taken out, it means the children had to be killed.
Fine, Mr. Witness, let me move on. Let me move on to someone who was also one of the guards. It's a completely different subject. Brother Teng. What was exactly Brother Teng's position when he was at S21?
បាទកាលនៅសម
At S21, he was a guard at the special prison, and in fact, he was a group chief of guards at the special prison.
Do you know when Teng was the chairman of the guards at the special prison?
He came to work in that location since he was reassigned from his unit.
Do you know whether Brother Teng was arrested at one point in time?
ខ្ញុំអត់
No, I did not know about that.
Do you know whether Teng was in some form or the other punished and sent to Prey Sar to work in the rice fields?
No, I did not know about that.
Do you know when it exactly was that you saw Tang at Chiang Ek?
When his group was assigned to transport wood to build the house, and that's when I started to know him.
So you didn't know him when he was still at S21, being the chairman of the guards of the special prison. Is that correct?
In fact, I knew him since he was a guard at a special prison.
When was it exactly that he changed functions? When did he start working at Chiang Ek?
It was in 1977.
Do you know exactly when in 77?
I did not know exactly when.
You said you were at Presar yourself at one point in time. Earlier you said mid-78. Did you ever see Brother Tang at Presar while you were there?
I did not pay attention to that because while I was there, I was asked to build diet to carry dirt in the rice field. So we worked in a group while others worked in their respective groups. And when it's time for a meal, we would have a common meal. And during the evening, we went to sleep at our separate sleeping quarters.
Do you know whether there were any other people with the name Tang within S21?
I cannot recall if there was any. It is now convenient to have our lunch break. We take a break now and resumed at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him as well as his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kyo Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.